everybody. It's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. Having some interpersonal issues? Have you considered locking everyone in your house and poisoning them all to death? If so, I have the template for you. It's Aunt Jordan's kill 'em all slowly technique, and it is all the rage this holiday season. Wow! What a psycho! I mean, like, Sheila Carter level psycho. I believe I asked Y&R for a good villain this year, and I believe they delivered. What a trip. Thank you. We've actually had two really good villains this year, Aunt Jordan and Cameron Kirsten. So I thought, you know what, why don't I talk about this week's story the same way I talked about Cameron's death in the sewer? There was like so much action, so much suspense that I just decided to give you guys my top 10 best moments. And that's what I'm going to do for Aunt Jordan and the whole thing at the lake house. My top 10 best moments of this super dramatic week, starting with number 10, the poisoned water bottles. I just like to imagine her sitting there poisoning each and every one of the little water bottles and putting the caps back on and screwing them and hoping nobody noticed that there was no, pop when they flipped the cap over. Hopefully they won't notice that the seal is broken on these water bottles. That was risky. And then, it's a plan that only works in SoPlan, because what would have happened if any one of them would have said, no thanks, I already brought my own personal water bottle. Like how everyone has their own personal water bottle. It's such a flimsy plan, but it totally worked for Jordan. It was totally absurd, but it worked. And it made for really good suspense, I thought, as we were watching them all take sips, knowing from the previews that they were all poisoning themselves. And that brings me to number 9 on my top 10, in descending order, by the way, moments of greatest suspense, number 1 being the best. But let's stick at number 9, which I think was the idea of the antidote. The antidote is number 9 on my list. I loved that she poisoned them, but she also had the antidote on hand. That is some classic soap opera right there. I'm gonna poison you, but I'm also gonna be able to undo it with this magic antidote after you do what I want. But that part, I still don't totally understand. What did Jordan ultimately want? She said she didn't want Victor's money. And she also said that she wanted them to die. But then, so why have the antidote at all? Was she trying to make a deal with them? Was she getting ready to make a deal with them? Or did she just want an apology? She had 2 vials of antidote locked away in a drawer in that beautiful spacious living room. But then she also had a couple extra vials in the kitchen, which Claire was able to procure for them. I loved that little moment of suspense when we thought there were only the 2 bottles, and it was like, oh, who's gonna get them? Because Victor and Nick and Victoria and apparently Cole we're all poisoned, and there was only 2 bottles in the drawer. 2 bottles of antidote. And who gets the first one? Victor Newman, of course. I'll be damned. Victor Newman gets the very first bottle. Actually, no, it's I won't be damned. Women and children first? I don't think so. Save the 80-year-old rich guy first. We can't lose him. We'd all be too well off. I mean, if Victoria really only wanted Newman Enterprises and control of Newman Enterprises, she could have done away with him right there by giving the antidote to someone else or taking it herself. I mean, Victoria's scrambling around being the one who had to make the decision about who got the antidote. I thought that was great. And she decided to give the first one to Victor. And then I think the second one went to Cole. Or was it to Nick? I think it was to Cole. But it was on Victoria's shoulders to decide who got the antidote. Number 8 on my list is all their various symptoms. The number 8 greatest moment for me this week was all the various symptoms that everyone had, because this digoxin drug poison apparently affects different people completely different ways, because Victor just looked like he wanted to take a nap. The big nap. Nick looked kind of queasy, and Cole showed practically no symptoms. I didn't see him get poisoned. I don't know. I mean, Aunt Jordan hit Cole over the head with a hammer or something. But the whole time I was watching all those scenes, I kept thinking, well, Cole didn't get poisoned, so surely he can just overpower this crazy lady. But then Victoria gave him the antidote, so he must have been poisoned at some point, and we just didn't see it. Maybe they clubbed him over the head, and then when he came to, they were like, here's a bottle of water. And then he was like, wait a minute, the safety seal seems like it's cracked. And they were like, don't think about it. It's your head. Just drink it. And then Victoria's symptoms were mostly shortness of breath. She was very gaspy. But everyone had different reactions to the drug, and so it was fun to see them all reacting differently. Now, number 7 on my top 10 list has got to be Victoria's desperation. Oh, she was amazing from A to Z. I really liked Victoria this week. Breathlessly bargaining with Claire and scurrying around, administering the antidote to her family. I just felt like Victoria was the glue that held this whole nightmare together. And I don't know about you, but I think that seems very promotion-worthy. I feel like when everybody gets back to Genoa City, Victor probably should have a promotion waiting for Victoria. It was Victoria who saved all of their lives by convincing Claire to get those vials. Speaking of Claire, number 6 on my top 10 best moments list was Claire crumbling. Just absolutely crumbling before our very eyes. Claire has been so stern and on point and stoic and mysterious since we very first met her. And this week we had the pleasure of watching her unravel. The moment when she realized that her whole life was built on a house of cards, she just completely collapsed. She went from being like Kathy Bates in Misery to just being this little lost girl. And you could see it in her face and in her body language and in the way she was talking now. It was just, she seemed pulled apart. Her entire identity got pulled apart right before our very eyes, and she just became this shell getting hauled off by the cops, only to, I'm sure, get pity taken on her soon. I'm sure Victoria and Cole, especially as was hinted in the previews, will eventually say, oh, Claire was brainwashed, it's not her fault, let's help her get back to, or let's help her become a real girl, a real human being. Number 5 on my top 10 list, Jordan gets away. Where could she be? Hiding in the attic, perhaps? Yeah, I thought it was pretty slick how Victor and Nikki slipped out of the bedroom door and turned around and locked it behind them very quickly, trapping Jordan inside of a cage that she created for Nikki. I love that. Or for all of them, really. I'm getting caught in her own cage. That was just a cool moment. And Victor and Nikki thought that they had her there until the cops went upstairs to search the room and Jordan was gone. The window was open, but it was too high to jump. So we had this another great moment of suspense where we're wondering, where could she have gone to? And Nikki said, well, she's got to be in the house somewhere. And that felt very spooky. And then we just, at the end of the episode, see this evil pair of eyes perfectly peeking through that old Victorian looking swirly twirly air vent from the attic. What a great shot. What a great ending. Or, I don't know, is it just a new beginning? Number 4, the Eve Howard tie-in. Y&R based this entire story on an old story. And, you know, I love that. Nostalgia sells, and I think they've realized it, especially when it comes to soap operas. Nostalgia is their biggest, greatest, deepest well, and I think that they are very smart to keep tapping it. Eve Howard, played by an actress named Margaret Mason. I just think that she was stunningly beautiful. I mean, I know she was supposed to be a crazy person, but the actress is just beautiful, and her shiny, silky, corn silky hair, and I just thought her face had a lot of character. She just had presence. And I didn't see her in her original run, so I can't give you firsthand experience about original Eve Howard. I did see her in and around 1993 when Cole was introduced on the show, and she was telling Victor that Cole was his son. So I saw that firsthand, but I did also, and we all have also seen Eve Howard and would recognize her as being the one who was sneaking around in the background at Victor and Nikki's huge classic first wedding, the Victor and Nikki wedding. Eve Howard's the one that's sneaking around in the background. So she's a pretty old school villain. She was introduced onto the show in 1980 as Victor's assistant. So this is an apt tie-in for Y&R to have made Claire become introduced as Nikki's assistant. And now Eve caused a lot of trouble for Victor, who was married to Julia at the time, his first wife, I believe. And Eve did pop in a couple of times over the years, namely, and this is where I jumped on, she was claiming that Cole was her and Victor's son, right as Cole and Victoria were falling in love and getting married. And Eve actually died before she could tell Victoria and Cole that they were, in fact, half siblings. Ooh, icky. It was eventually revealed that Cole and Victoria were not related. Cole was not Victor's son, so whew, crisis averted there. But Cole and Victoria were together for a number of years, and Victoria did miscarry their child together, a child that they named Eve. Eve was born premature, died. They named her Eve, and now Jordan is claiming that their baby didn't die at all, that she stole their baby out of the hospital, switched their baby with an infant who had died. And so, I think this is interesting. I think it's perhaps the story of Eve Howard and her legacy continuing on. DNA test pending. And that brings me to number 3 of the top 10 greatest moments of the debacle. Number 3, Claire calls Victoria mother. So there's the family reunion that Claire had been alluding to. Jordan had told Claire that Victoria was her mother, who abandoned her and gave her away and left her, and in fact never wanted her in the first place, and that Victoria secretly shoveled her own child off because it was inconvenient for her and the Newman family, which is a story you could probably believe if you're Claire. But even if Claire does somehow turn out to be Victoria's daughter, and what Jordan said is true, I believe Victoria when she told Cole, no, that's not true. I miscarried our child. Everything we thought was true. It's true. Plus, I was there when Victoria miscarried, okay? She was devastated. I do not think that she was secretly shuffling their baby off. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I feel like we really got down to the heart of Claire's character, finally. What she was told for her whole life was that she had been jilted by her own mother, that her own mother didn't want her. And I loved when she said, well, I'll call it, she's calling her mother. She said, well, we're past the mama and mommy stage, aren't we? And mom seems too formal, so I'll just go with mother. I loved that moment. And I loved Victoria and Cole's confusion and desperation, and watching them try to process the fact that they buried their child years ago, and they thought that they knew what they knew, but yet you could see that there was doubt creeping into both of them. It was all over their faces. And when Cole looked at Victoria and just said, our baby died, right? It was, she's dead, isn't she? I just thought that was very heartbreaking. It was an emotional unearthing, and I felt that Amelia Heinle and J. Eddie Peck really portrayed that. Number 2 greatest moment. Nick gets stabbed. Oh. Nick was such a supporting character here. He was such a side note. He was such an innocent bystander. So when Jordan so callously just sliced him with that big butcher knife, it was like, hey, crazy lady, you leave Nick alone. Nick didn't do anything wrong here. But she didn't care. Jordan had that big butcher knife stashed right there. That was her choice of weapon that she decided to stash there in the little bench. Like, she knew she might need a backup weapon. Yet she'd had her whole life to plan this, and she didn't think maybe a gun. She went with kitchen knife. I seriously think that Y&R just said, you know what this scene needs? Some blood. It needs some blood, but it can't be like a gunshot wound, because we just shot Chance. We just gave Chance a miraculous recovery wound. We can't with a bullet. We have to do something else. I know, knife. And, ooh, it'll give Nick something to do. Nick's got to do something in this scene. Plus, we can get a good shot of the chest wound. It'll look real grody, real realistic, and it did. And I was impressed by how well Nick kind of kept it all quiet. He tried to help himself. I mean, Nick definitely had he was the first one to have the idea of making his way over to the unlocked desk drawer to dial 911 for himself. That was amazing. But my number one most amazing moment of the whole debacle was Victor rescues Nikki very slowly. So slowly. It all started with a sound coming from the upstairs and this very subtle look between Nick and Victor. But they both just looked at each other like, that was no cat. And that was not Audra. So that had to be Nikki. She had just ripped her own IV out of her hand, and she was fighting for her own life, which we saw in the preview she's going to continue to do. And so, with what little strength Nick had left, he lunged for Jordan and pinned her against the wall, while Victor slowly sauntered his way upstairs and slowly entered his way into the room and then slowly embraced Nikki as he then slowly walked her down the stairs. I would say that this was the least action-packed rescue ever. But one moment saved it all. Not only saved it, but took it to the top of my list. Victor is embracing Nikki in the room, in the bedroom, when Jordan shows up at the door and she has the bloody knife in her hand, and Victor looks at her and says, "Whose blood is that? Whose blood is that?" And Jordan replies, "Not yours yet." And Victor just looks at the bloody knife, points his finger in Jordan's face, and says, "You're going to have to use that, and you're going to have to use it all the way." Oh, boom. You're going to have to use that, and you're going to have to use it all the way. I'm sorry. Victor Newman has guts. He has got guts. He is in a weakened state. This crazy woman has got a knife pointed at him, and he looks at her and he says, "Oh, you're going to kill me? Well, then you better use that thing all the way. You better do it. If you think you're going to kill me, then you better do it right." Oof. Oof. I thought that was great. I mean, that moment just blew me back. I mean, to brush aside any fear of the knife, any fear of death that you might have, and just to look at someone in the face who's trying to kill you and be that brave. I just thought, Victor Newman is no stranger to overcoming fear. And he was just so bold in that moment. I mean, and I just loved it. In my opinion, that has got to be one of the great Victor Newman moments. I mean, look, Victor was not the one who negotiated with Claire. Victor was not the one who found the phones and dialed 911. But in that moment, Victor was Nikki's hero. And in that moment, he was mine. Aw, didn't Kyle look so nice on his first day of work? With his mommy fixing his tie for him. He's a big boy now. He kills me. Kyle kills me. Tucker said, he's just a haircut. He called Kyle just a haircut. Ugh, what an insult. Ugh. I mean, I love making fun of Kyle too, but I think Y&R and Michael Milor know exactly what they're doing with Kyle and this specific portrayal. Kyle is a spoiled little brat trying to wear a big boy suit, and it works. It comes across. It's a personality type. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it right. It's so easy to go for Kyle, but it's intentional, and it's really, really very good. I also love the dynamic between Diane and Kyle. I feel like she just pins his little mittens on every morning. He's her little baby boy. And she's just coaching her little baby boy on how to become a better liar. Somebody's got to train him. But just be careful, little Kyle. Don't get too big for your britches, especially when you are dealing with two snakes like Tucker McCall and Audra Charles. No. Mummy would much prefer it if Kyle would go back to Summer. And I think that it's because Diane feels less threatened by Summer on some level. I think Diane knows that she has more power over Kyle than Summer does. But Audra? I mean, Audra's superpower is sex. And that is hard for Mom to compete with. That's why Diane wants them back together. Audra also seemed to be showing a little bit of care and concern for Kyle this week. She was defending him to Tucker a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. Then again, maybe Audra only likes Kyle and is going to bat for Kyle because she thinks that she can control Kyle. And it doesn't hurt that Audra staying with Kyle makes Tucker jealous. And he is. It's working, because Tucker said this week, he stopped himself from saying, I'm the only one who can really satisfy you. And then they did it. It's complicated. So Kyle's back at Jabot, his first day on the job, and the lights are out. What's up with that? That sounds fishy to me. I mean, could we not maybe put the Jabot set up because we had the lake house up and also that Italian bistro or French bistro or whatever it was? So that seemed set related. I wanted to see him go to the office in the dark with flashlights and be working. That's what I expect. But yeah, well, Kyle is going back on the inside at Jabot. He's pretending to be working for Tucker, but he's really trying to work on the side of the Abbotts. And Kyle thinks that Tucker thinks that he's on his side. But Tucker did tell Audra this week that he's on to Kyle, which means that Tucker is a better poker player than Billy. Right? I don't know about you guys, but I was absolutely enthralled by Billy's speech about the psychology of poker. I mean, that was a well-written speech. That was nice material. Billy was talking about how he doesn't read the cards. He reads the player. And that just blew my mind back. I thought that was incredible. He is watching their moves, and then he's making his moves based on that. And when it comes to Tucker McCall, Billy said that he can tell with his perfect read that Tucker thinks he has a winning hand, which makes Billy think that that winning hand includes Kyle. And Billy told this to Jack, and Jack did not want to believe it at first. And Billy made a very convincing argument, and Jack became enraged. And I don't think it was so much at Billy's suggestion, which is good, because I think Billy's instincts are right. We know, the audience knows that Billy's instincts are right. But I think Jack was more mad about the idea that Billy could be right, that Tucker could have gotten his claws into Kyle, as if Kyle is not capable of making decisions for himself. And maybe that's how Kyle's family sees him, as someone who can't make decisions for himself, someone who is easily manipulatable. And so maybe that's why the idea of flipping over to the other side and flipping the table on his own family was so appealing to Kyle in the first place. Fashion star of the week. Fashion star of every week. Abby, in her watercolor sweater. She looked so beautiful for her put me on the board moment. Yes. They said this is a serious moment for Abby. Watercolor. Rainbow watercolor. Hell yes. Honestly, I am ready to see Abby take on Tucker McCall for hurting her mother and her boyfriend. I think Abby would be the perfect person to take on Tucker because Tucker would never see her coming. He would never see that coming. So, was that a new black and white flashback between Tucker and Ashley in Paris? Because we had a black and white flashback before, but I don't think we had seen this one. I do not remember seeing Tucker smash a glass or fly up from the table like that. And I definitely would have remembered the big swig of wine that he took, where he drank it so ferociously that the wine dribbled out of his mouth and onto his shirt. That was the most ferocious way that anyone has ever drank a glass of wine ever. Nobody throws back a wine that intensely. That was probably really offensive to the little French bistro. Like, wine is meant to be savored, and he just like it was a shot. So much that he got it on him. That's not gentlemanly behavior. Nothing about that was gentlemanly. It was such a turnoff. He was scary. He was really scary, and now we understand why Ashley was so upset. Tucker is very intimidating and very petulant and very immature. When I just wanted to smack him when he was like fake whining at her like a child would do, like, I don't care when you sleep at night. Or it was like he was a child making fun of someone. It was the lowest. It was the lowest form of communication. And she was really shook up about it. And she continued to be shook up about it through the week, or to look like it. I mean, Eileen Davidson looked teary-eyed and wrecked. I mean, like, Tucker was like a child with an untamed rage. A child that's having a tantrum and doesn't know how to control it yet. He should be more evolved than that. And I'm surprised that they did not get thrown out of the bistro. I just think the manager should have been called. He was acting inappropriately. Where is the manager? And given how devastated Ashley was, I'm surprised that she seems like she's thinking about going back to him. That bothers me. Because anyone who could act like that and then months later show no remorse, I wouldn't want to be with that person. I would never want to put up with that ever again. Why is she acting like she's going to go back to him. Because even if she isn't going back to him physically, she's clearly gone back to him emotionally. Meeting with Devon and seeing if Devon can be the one to get through to Tucker. Forget it, Ashley. Don't even waste a moment of your time searching for some kind of way to save Tucker. Tucker's going to do what he's going to do, and it's going to blow up in his face, and he's going to wind up all alone, and then he's going to start whining and acting all puppy doggish and going on his apology tour and telling everyone, wait for it, I'm just not that person anymore. Tucker peaked. He peaked for me last week when he said, turkey sucks. Last week, that was 100% pure awesome Tucker. He hit the peak of the mountain, and then he just completely slid off the face for me. Turkey sucks. You suck this week, Tucker. But you guys got me. I mean, you all heard it, and that's fine. I accept it. I accept it, and I give shout-outs to Henry, Hannah, Calvin, Victoria, Kamna, Marianne V, Michelle, Stephen, Daisy, Tanya, Karen, Elise, Sharon W, Ron, Tina, Lynn, Brent, Dolores, Sue W, Diana, and good old Marky. I got him. I knew it was going to be a long list, but I didn't care. That was the line of the week. Oh, and let's see. How about this for a new line? I am the bomb? Question mark. I am the bomb? Who would have said that? You should go to yrchat.com and leave your guess and tell me. And if you get it right, I will give you your shout out during next week's Y&R Chat. How about that? And now to some comments, starting with Sharon W., who says, the scenes today between Ashley and Tucker were tender. She really seems to care about Tucker remaining in Devon and Dom's lives. Both actors did a great job expressing their characters' affection for each other. Their true love and deep-rooted feelings for each other truly showed through today. Even though, married or not, the bickering will continue. You know, she said that about the annulment maybe not being done yet. So I'm almost kind of wondering if they'll end up getting back together and the annulment won't end up happening. And yes, those scenes were tender, but I mean, it's like, okay, well, maybe that balance, I just don't feel like he's showing the remorse that I need to see. But yeah, you know what? That's how reality is. Sometimes the couple is totally just not on the same page. And I think that describes Ashley and Tucker right now. I mean, you can love each other and that doesn't change, but just the something is off. Kamna says, I'm into the Tucker-Audra vibe. Both what we saw at Thanksgiving as well as the interaction in his suite on Friday. I don't want them to get together immediately, but I do want whatever this sexy, passionate, and intense connection is to grow and continue. You know, I think you're right. I think Audra handles Tucker better than Ashley does on some level. I feel like, Ashley is really wrecked by him, and Audra seems to somehow have a little bit of a blank spot, emotional toughness when it comes to him, where she can deflect it. It's like he's going to do his thing and he's going to have his little fit, and she's just able to deflect it a little bit better than Ashley is. I think Ashley is much more tender about it. I mean, Ashley, when Ashley loves, she really, really loves. I think Audra reserves a little part of herself, which is probably smarter. Oh, Billy, let's talk about him, because Diana really appreciated that gambling analogy, saying Billy showed us a positive side to his personality and that he actually has skill when he plays poker. It made Jack realize that it isn't just playing a game of cards, but that it involves studying people and their behavior. That is how you win the game. Yeah, studying people and their behavior. Do you guys do that consciously? I don't, but maybe I should start. That's what my takeaway from Billy's speech was. I should start watching the player always. Okay, there's a shift in awareness. Okay, so last week I asked you guys in a poll if you think that Chance should go to work at Chancellor Winters. 51% of you say yes, Chance should go into the corporate job. 49% of you say no, and most of the comments were saying no. Starting with Sherrod, who says, somebody in this town needs to have a regular job. Genoa City is a town without police, firefighters, teachers, doctors, and children. What's next? Santa Claus? I voted no. No Santa Claus in Genoa City. Yeah, you know, that is so right. It's just Y&R has become about the businesses and only about the businesses, and anyone they cast in any of these like town roles just ends up with nothing to do because all the action is at the businesses. Kamna says, the business corporate storylines are my favorite, but what's a soap without the occasional kidnapping, murder, or other soapy crimes? If Chance stops being a cop, there's even less chance we'll see this kind of thing. Plus, we've spent years getting to know him as a dedicated law enforcement professional. Keep it that way. Oh, you know, Kamna, that's a good point. We've had years of Chance being established in law enforcement. And that's just going to be kind of brushed to the side. I mean, he could always come back. He could always come back to the law. I think it's possible. Tony says, no, Nate stepped out of the medical profession to go into business. Now we have no doctor. If Chance steps out of law enforcement to go into business, we will have no police. Y&R needs those two to be in their assigned jobs. Y&R doesn't have any lawyers right now either. Oh, no, we have Heather. Okay. Yeah, you need these characters. You really do. But Henry voted yes that Chance should go work at Chancellor Winters. However, the jury's still out as to how successful he will be. I also think that since it appears that he and Summer will become romantically involved, it would put them on the same page as executive to executive, and that would work. Sharon will land somewhere. She always does. Of course, nepotism is the name of the game in Genoa City corporate world, so nothing new there. And that's really what it's about, Henry. I think they knew Chance is the only chancellor. We have to use him as a chancellor. We can just find somebody else to be a cop, the new town cop. But also, yeah, let's not skip over the fact that Summer walked in on Chance and Sharon's big congratulatory kiss this week. Chance did decide that he's going to Chancellor Winters, and Sharon was the first that he told, and they had a nice moment and a kiss, and Summer walked right in on it. And I'm just loving it. I thought she looked so embarrassed. I thought she played it exactly perfectly. Like, my boyfriend crush. It was so obvious that Chelsea noticed it. So obviously Sharon noticed it too. Chelsea was like, so Summer, is there anything that you want to tell me? And she confessed. Summer confessed and said, yeah, she's got feelings for Chance, but he's with Sharon, so there's nothing I can do about it. Right. Hey, how about this? Sharon W. says, after hearing Chance on Friday telling Sharon that he's leaving his current job, my prediction on Thursday may indeed come to fruition. Cole would be the best candidate for replacing Chance as police chief. He took charge and saved the day when he and the Newmans were in dire straits at the lake house. Yeah, you know, Cole does give good police vibes. He could easily play a cop, or a doctor, or someone of quiet authority. That's who Cole can play. Someone of quiet authority. He's a writer, right? But, I mean, he's been gone for 25 years. He could have gone to police school. He could have gone to police academy. Victoria says he could become a professor at Genoa City University. Connor, Johnny, and Katie could all go there and add additional actors who are up-and-coming rock stars, models, want to be singers, aspiring writers, and we can repeat more Y&R history. I'm in. Oh my gosh, you know, you just had a really great idea. I love the idea of GCU and seeing them. And you're right that they could take a little slice of the show to feature, like, who is the hot tween or whatever. They know we're old though at this point. They know we would all be like, who is this fine looking leather jacketed young man? I don't need to see this. Give me something old. Show me another classic episode. So I don't know. I mean, that is a very fresh idea though as to how Y&R could possibly pull in some new youthy viewers. Find out who their influences are that they're watching, bringing them onto the show, and then you got some younger viewers. But I don't know if I want younger viewers driving the vehicle here. We got to keep control of this. Let's oldies keep control of the wheel here though for a little while. L&M with the line of the week saying, I don't think Claire is getting a birthday card with a $5 bill in it from Grandma Ann this year. Certainly not. Certainly Nikki is going to have a really hard time dealing with Claire. Every time she sees Claire, she's going to have a relapse. Oh, man. I don't like Nikki drinking storylines, by the way. I don't know if I've told you that before, but I always am, when Nikki goes back to drinking. It's so tired. Naomi says, Claire certainly looks a lot like Victoria, and if Eve was her grandmother, she and Eve have blonde hair. I think you've really hit it here, Naomi. This is exactly right. And this is how we know. Claire had her hair in a tight bun, and Victoria had her hair in a tight bun. I don't know what further evidence we need. They are mother and daughter. Gary says, will Victoria and J. Eddie marry to bring a little family life to their wayward daughter Eve? Oh, Gary. I love that you call him J. Eddie. You're refusing to call him Cole. Well, it's Victoria and J. Eddie. Will they marry and bring a little family life to their wayward daughter Eve? Maybe. Stephen says Cole seemed to think that it might be true. He might force a DNA test, and Victoria might not want the truth to be known. Yeah, a DNA test for sure. They're going to for sure follow up on this. They're not just going to say, wow, that's crazy, and do nothing. Naomi says, I'm not familiar with Cole and Victoria's storyline. I've been waiting for Johnny and Katie to be aged up to young adults, so maybe we can still have this happen. Victoria will find herself in the same predicament as her father. She has 2 children raised together, and now she has a surprise child showing up as a young adult with a chip on her shoulder, just like Adam. Now Victoria will want her children to all just get along, just like her father. Naomi, dang. That is so good. There's no way Y&R has thought of it. You just thought of that just now. And Y&R's going to hear it, and they're going to make that the new thing, because clearly that's exactly correct. Wow. That is a great idea. That would make Victoria look at Adam in a whole new way. Oh, so Victoria has a wayward daughter. Oh, making things look a little different now, huh? I love that. Jordan, let's talk about her, because I think we are on the verge of a poll here. Victoria says, I'm loving how ridiculous Aunt Jordan is. And Sue W. says, I'm loving this whole wacky story. Random nonsense, plot holes, and soapy melodrama abound. And all are delivered perfectly, as always, by the fantastically talented cast. Y&R does not disappoint for me. Sue W. Gosh, you're just right after my own heart. I love that you love all of the ridiculousness. And I think it was pretty good, and I like that we're ending out the year with a villain. I don't know if Aunt Jordan's sticking around. I feel like it's possible we'll never see her again. But I think she was pretty good, and I'd like to give her a thumbs up and ask if you guys think that she was a good villain. So this week at yrchat.com, I want you to give Aunt Jordan, whatever you want to call her, a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the villain department. Let me know what you think. Oh, here we go. Ellen says, and we have reached the Come here, my baby. Part of the plot, as we knew we would, but with an extra peekaboo from Crazy Jordan behind a grate. At least for a while, they can stop pretending that Adam is a villain. Ellen, I want you to know that when I heard the "my baby" line come out of Victor's mouth, I mean, the absolute moment it hit my eardrum, I associated you. I thought, it was a moment between us that maybe you didn't know existed, but in that moment, we were together. He said, "my baby," and I thought, she's hearing this. Oh, yeah, that was great. Sharon W. says, best acting today was from Victor and Nikki. Great performances from two veteran actors. They were finally given a script with some meat on the bone, and even after years of breakups, they remain devoted to each other and yearn to be together and to take care of each other. I find that endearing. I find that endearing too, and I'm sure that Victor is going to be there for his baby to help her through the alcoholism. Gary says, was anyone as surprised as I was to see Mark Grossman / Adam Newman out to lunch at a time when his family needed him the most? Gary, I love that you just refuse to, you can't fully embrace a character. You also have to mention the actor name too. It's dual for you. It's like it's the character and it's the actor for you. That is funny. But Adam could not have been at the lake house because he was busy kissing Sally, getting kisses from Sally. All he had to do was be patient and then let her come to him, and sure enough, bing, kiss. Second, he was like, I'm not gonna kiss you this time. She kissed him. A little bit hard to get. Can't hurt. Ron says, I thought for sure that Adam would figure out what was happening and rush in to rescue everyone. He'd be all set for family forgiveness and a Sally reunion. Yeah, this really should have been Adam's time to shine, don't you think? And come to think of it, Adam really should have been the one having that conversation with Billy instead of Nate. Or it could have been Adam instead of Nate having that conversation, or instead of Billy having the conversation with Nate. That would have been something to make sense. Adam being the one to start worrying about the family and the fact that he hasn't heard from anyone. But, the Nate and Billy scene was still good. Naomi says, Billy said to Nate, well, you can gnaw your leg off to get yourself free from a Newman trap, or you can calmly show yourself the door. I can't do a perfect quote, but that whole long conversation between Billy and Nate concerning all things Newman was full of gems. Yeah, that was a very good scene. And Ellen says, Billy boy, you worthless degenerate. Great nickname, has a nice ring to it, like that boy Ryan or Ashland Locke. Billy definitely deserves more syllables after all these years. Yeah, I loved Nate and Billy just talking about the virtues or non-virtues of of dating Victoria and dealing with the Newman family. But yes, that was a nice moment where Billy was even going to call Victor, to see what was wrong. And Nate says, well, are you sure he's not just ignoring your phone call? And Billy says, no, he would love to pick up the phone and berate me. He would never miss that opportunity. Something's wrong. And there was this nice little moment, too, where Nate said, well, are you sure that Victor doesn't secretly, deep down like you? And that's why he calls you these nicknames or whatever? And Billy, without missing a beat, said, no, absolutely not. He hates me. No. It's actual hate. And you might just want to gnaw your own leg off to get away. Well, let's end on a fashion note. Victoria says, burgundy and wine seem to be the fall colors in Genoa City. Kyle looked quite dapper in his wine wool top coat. Billy looked very dashing last week in his burgundy sport coat. And I can't wait to see Nate in these colors. I know purple's his color, but I bet he can pull off this burgundy wine color too. Oh, girl. Do not get me all charged up thinking of Nate in burgundy. I have a Y&R Chat to finish up. Burgundy, as in wine, as in Tucker's huge swig of wine that landed on his shirt. That's the moment of the week. The wine swigging. even in a week with a villain and this whole when the entire Newman family got poisoned in a lake house, still the moment of the week was the wine dribbling out of Tucker's mouth and onto his shirt. That's how I view it anyway. Okay, everybody. That takes us to the end. And now it is your turn. You must go to yrchat.com to leave your comments. And then you must come back next week for another Y&R Chat. I love you guys, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.